Should we go back to the gold standard? Part 2. Let's talk about it. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'll leave a link to that down below. Let's continue with what proponents and opponents say about returning to the gold standard. Proponents say returning to a gold standard would reduce the US trade deficit. A trade deficit is when the country is buying more goods and services, imports, than it sells, exports, creating the need for foreign financing that must be repaid when the deficit turns into a surplus, when the country is exporting more than it is importing. Our current fiat money system allows the Federal Reserve to finance large trade deficits by printing money. Since abandoning the gold standard in 1971, the US has had the highest trade deficit in the world has ever seen, reaching a high of $758 billion. As of May 2020, $6.78 trillion of American national debt is owned by foreign creditors. Japan holds the most at $1.26 trillion, followed by China and the UK and Luxembourg. US debt held by foreign creditors amounts to about a third of all US debt. Japan and China want the value of the US dollar to be higher than their own currencies. Debt of this sort always ends by the currency of the debtor nation decreasing in value, and that's what has started to happen with the dollar, although it's still a long way to go. Our free lunch cannot last forever. Printing money, buying foreign products, and selling foreign holders of dollars are debt ends when the foreign holders of this debt become concerned with the dollar's future value. But what do opponents say about this? A gold standard would increase the environmental and cultural harms created by mining gold. In the first quarter of 2019, mining 1 ounce of gold costs $1,000. The average wedding band contains 3 to 7 ounces of gold. All the human labor used for mining, refining, and storing gold is time and energy diverted from the real economy. The direct costs associated with a fiat paper money system are much lower because a paper bill only costs between 7.7 and 19.6 cents. Many gold mines use a process called cyanide leach mining that creates large-scale water pollution and massive open pit scars on the land. Reducing 1 ounce of gold creates 79 tons of mine waste. Further, nearly 50% of all global gold mining occurs on the indigenous land, where the community's land rights are often violated. In Brazil, the Yanomami, a tribe of 26,700 people who remain relatively isolated, are being threatened by illegal gold mining on their reservation in the Amazon rainforest. In addition to forest destruction and poisonous rivers, the tribe saw 2 of their communities wiped out by the flu and measles brought in by illegal gold mining operations in the 1970s. In 2020, COVID-19 was brought by miners. But is returning any good? A gold standard would force the US to reduce its military and defense spending and prevent unnecessary wars. Fiat money enables governments to maintain an easy war policy. To be truly opposed to preemptive and unnecessary wars, one must advocate sound money to prevent the promoters of war from financing their imperialism. The government's ability to limitlessly print fiat paper money allows it to fund a massive global defense establishment, an estimated 800 bases in 80 or more countries, and an operational ground troop presence in at least 15 countries. The US defense budget was $738 billion in 2020. In 2019, defense spending was $732 billion, or about 38% of global defense spending, and almost as much as the next 10 countries' defense spending combined. This level of spending would not be possible if the US returned to a full gold standard. But is there a downside to this? Returning to a gold standard could harm national security by restricting the country's ability to finance national defense. A gold standard could prevent the sometimes necessary quick expansion of currency to finance war buildup. In order to help finance the Civil War, President Lincoln authorized the printing of $450 million in fiat currency known as greenbacks. During World War I, the US and many European countries stopped using a gold standard to finance war efforts by temporarily printing more money. The Great War proved to be the first nail in the coffin for the international gold standard, as it was causing deflation and unemployment to run rampant. The US financed its involvement in World War II in large part by having the Federal Reserve print money, selling war bonds, and running large deficits. But what about from a business perspective? Many politicians, businessmen, and organizations support the return to a gold standard. Returning to a gold standard is an opportunity to secure continued prominence in global monetary affairs. Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, called the gold standard the primary global currency. Government creation of fiat money is morally identical to the counterfeiter who illegally prints currency. Steve Forbes, the editor of Forbes, argued that a new gold standard is crucial to save the country from a crisis that would even be worse than 2008. And many other organizations support a return to a gold standard. However, this doesn't sit well with economists. Many prominent economists oppose returning to the gold standard. Current Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell stated that a return to the gold standard would mean other things would fluctuate and we wouldn't care. We wouldn't care if unemployment went up or down. That wouldn't be our job anyway. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman has called returning to a gold standard an almost comically bad idea. Former chairman of the Federal Reserve Ben Bernanke has said the gold standard would not be feasible for both practical reasons and policy reasons. In one survey of 50 economic experts, all senior faculty members at elite universities, not a single one believed returning to a gold standard would be better for the average American in terms of price stability or employment outcomes. Love of the gold standard implies macroeconomic illiteracy. So what are your thoughts? Should the US go back to the gold standard? If you like this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. I talk about money and everything related to it, so don't miss out. And as always, take care of your money.